If you want to let go of past pain, transcend your traumas, expand your consciousness, and reclaim your power to finally be the main character of your own conscious reality, as well as learning about conscious living, you're at the right place. Welcome to Conscious Matters. It's a safe space where we chat about conscious matters, focus on self-empowerment, awareness, holistic wellness, and sustainability. Join me, Melissa DiVieri, for inspiring conversations with myself and some of the most beautiful souls out there. We expand on our experiences and share what we've learned along our healing journey to live in peace, harmony, and mindfulness on a daily basis. Oh, and share with loved ones, and don't forget to take 5 little seconds to review this podcast by just leaving a few stars and kind words. That would really help with the algorithm so we can spread the message to help more people live consciously. Get your mind, body, and soul ready for a ride in consciousness. Namaste, listeners. Like the author Henry Cloud said, you get what you tolerate. Have you ever said yes to something out of obligation, guilt, fear, when you really did not want to? Does it sound familiar to you to not saying no or stretching yourself way too thin to comply or help others and then feeling resentful towards the other person? That is what used to happen to me pretty often, to be honest, and feeling like I was overstretching my own limits to be helpful and being met with people who considered that normal coming from me since I gave them this habit. So being taken for granted and depleting my own energy while carrying all of these negative feelings and emotions like disappointment, resentment, even tiredness, to be honest. Like when you're tired, but from the inside, you're not physically tired, but you're like, I don't have energy to give anymore, but you just keep on tapping into your empty tank. So I was wondering, do you currently or did you feel the same? I've been talking a lot about boundaries throughout many episodes already, but I think that I've never fully dived into the nitty-gritty of it. And since as a society, we desperately lack boundaries, I thought it was a good time to talk about that and in my own life coming from a version of me who had very poor boundaries to someone who has now very strong boundaries. I thought it was interesting to go over that subject because we really need them to live a life that is true to us, first of all, a life that is also in alignment with who we are and to fully enjoy actually helping others and not doing it out of, as I said before, guilt, obligation, or things like that. So I think we desperately like boundaries generally for different reasons. But the first reason that comes to my mind is that it stems from childhood most of the time. Adults telling children to be good girls and good boys and be nice, feeling as a child like you don't really have a say or feeling intimidated or that you have to agree with what the adults are saying or simply the authority figure, maybe your parents, your teachers, so on and so forth. So I think that idea kind of get ingrained into us since the youngest age. So I think that's why the majority of us grow up trying to fit that image of being nice and being the good girl and the good boy. And also for people raised by narcissist parents or parents dealing with mental or emotional imbalances who were taught that they don't have needs, or even if they do, they shouldn't voice these needs. I think these people have a very hard time not only setting boundaries, but also saying no. Another reason that we don't have boundaries or we lack boundaries or we have poor boundaries, I think is like this tendency of people pleasing. I've been guilty of it as well. I was about to say like I'm still working on it, but no, like now I'm really done with people pleasing. I'll help you, I'll be nice to you, but if what you're asking it's against what I believe in, it's against my truth, it's depleting my energy, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. So people pleasing, doing things out of fear, out of guilt, or to avoid conflict, overextending self or self-sacrificing to keep the peace around and make everyone happy instead of staying true to your inner knowing, your inner guidance. And I think at some point when you've done so much inner work on yourself, you kind of asking, okay, what for? Why do I even do that if it's going against me? And I used to be like such a big people pleaser. That was terrible. Especially, I think it was more like the people closest to me. And yeah, I'm trying to keep the peace and trying to please everyone. But it's impossible. It's impossible. And when you try, people will ask for more. So at some point, you just got to make a choice. Are you going to choose yourself, or are you going to choose others who are choosing their own selves? So all of that, maybe from childhood, being raised by parents dealing with mental or emotional imbalances, or just people pleasing. So that is resulting in us not really thinking about our boundaries by default. We don't really know what are our limits, or other people obviously don't know either. They don't know our limits. And they will cross the line left and right until you put your foot down. I think it's super important to talk more about boundaries and how lacking them can be stressful and detrimental to our well being and to living in harmony with ourselves. So that's something that I had to learn and to understand and incorporate in my own life. And let me tell you that since then, I've been living a life that is so much less overwhelming, much less stressful, and much more peaceful. So let's see how we can empower ourselves with strong and healthy boundaries. Listen up to this, Jam. What are boundaries in the first place? To me, boundaries are about determining what swings your boat and what keeps it afloat. So, literally, the yeses and the nos you give on a constant basis that are actually shaping your life. Boundaries, it's what you are flexible on and what are your non negotiables to stay aligned with your authentic self. And boundaries are about protecting your well being, they are the barriers around your safe space and help you being decisive and grounded in yourself, committing to your well-being and building healthy relationships and experiences in your life instead of overwhelming, stressful, draining, and deceitful ones. And one thing that we often forget is that boundaries are not necessarily set in stone. Boundaries can shift and evolve with time. They will shift and evolve at the same pace of your growth. Some will become outdated and new ones will be created. And that's normal. That's life. Because when we set boundaries, we think that, okay, it's going to be this thing and I'm just going to be so rigid about it. And if they don't respect it, then they're out. But they can evolve. You're not giving up on yourself if you change your boundary or you make your boundary evolve. So, why do we need boundaries? For different reasons. Boundaries are a part of our self care. They're a testament to how you decide to treat yourself and set the bar for how you want others to treat you. For them to not ignore your mental and emotional health, boundaries are also what you have to say no to put your well-being at the top of your list because only you can take care of you. You cannot abandon yourself just because you want to manage other people's emotional reactions or perceptions of you. And not only talking about other people, we need boundaries for our own self too. Boundaries are also with ourselves. It's about what you need to stop doing or saying to yourself to take care of yourself. Let's say that you a workaholic, you using work to numb out the pain of the rest, lacking balance in the different areas of your life. Maybe you need to put boundaries with yourself. After this hour, I'm done with working and I'm going to invest in the other areas of my life. I will take 1 hour to take care of my body and work out. I will take the following hour to catch up with my friends or my family, and I will have some bonding time with them and nurture my relationships so I can really have this balance in my life, work, self care, and also other relationships around me. But if I don't put boundaries with myself, I know that I will keep on going, focusing only on work, and then is not healthy for me and is not really and truly taking care of myself. So boundaries are also with self. And as always, I'm saying you have to take care of yourself because it starts with yourself. You want to show up in the world to your family, to your friends, and to your community as the most present, full, and vibrant expression of yourself to serve them the best way possible, to give them the best energy that you can give them. Because usually, if you chose them to be in your life, it means that they deserve the best of you too, and you deserve the best of them. But you also have to give the best of yourself. If you're depleted, overextending yourself, stressed, and overwhelmed, who do you want to care for? What and who do you want to give to if you already empty and not knowing what's best for yourself in the first place? It's a cycle. Everything you're pouring into yourself will multiply so you can mindfully share the overflow all around you. But for that, you need to have the overflow in the first place. So we need boundaries for self, like all of that for self-care. But we also need boundaries with other people. If we don't let other people know what's okay and what's not okay with us, and we let them treat us whatever the way they want, it will not only hurt us, but it will make us rage inside, having these feelings of unworthiness, poor self esteem, resentment, and lack of trust in others. And that's not cool. We don't want that. I do really believe in honesty and being upfront with people right off the bat. In the past, as I was saying in the intro, like in the past, I had really poor boundaries. The closer you were to me, the less boundaries I would have with you. And when you get people being used to a certain behavior coming from you, they end up thinking that it's normal and take advantage of you or the situation because it serves them well. And I think that's a human thing too. If you're comfortable, I mean, it's not a human thing, but more like the way that we've been conditioned in this society. If we have what we need and we don't have to make an effort out of it, yeah, I'll keep on taking. But things needs to be fair. Like I think once you kind of got out of the matrix, you realize that it's super important to have equal give and take and to choose yourself. And when I say taking advantage of you, it doesn't even have to be big things. Like, for example, let's say you're trying to lower the load of another person by always finding stuff online for them or with helping them with admin tasks or whatever that seems easier for you to do. So you know that you can do it more efficiently and faster than if they were doing them for themselves. So they start asking you every time they need help with the internet, the admin or whatever, to the point that they don't even make the effort anymore to even look for the information, read, or draft the admin letter. You literally became the crutch in that area. They demand more and more of you, your time, and don't make the slight effort anymore because you're here to fix it for them. And they want it like yesterday. You find yourself running around like a headless chicken, investing your time and your skills into a situation that is not balanced anymore. And like Brene Brown said, generosity cannot exist without boundaries. And I believe she said that because without boundaries, you end up overgiving, overextending yourself, feeling depleted and angry and resentful towards others, not feeling like you're being honest with yourself. So you're giving, but you're not being genuine in the way you give. Because when you give, you're supposed to have good feelings about it. Not you doing it just for the sake of it. And it's not supposed to make you feel bad. And when you're giving without boundaries, you're missing the whole point of the act of giving. That is actually supposed to benefit both of you too. Every time that we give healthily, of course, with boundaries, it brings such joy, such satisfaction, and good feelings to the giver. Of course, it helps the one that benefits, but the giver also, I'm not gonna say gets a gets a kick out of it, but almost like it's such a great feeling to give. But generosity cannot exist without boundaries. So now that we know what our boundaries and why do we need them for ourselves and for others, how do we set them in place and stick to them? Because that second part is super important too, because we got to stick to our boundaries once we have set them in place. I'm going to be honest, it's hard to set boundaries, especially when you're not used to. It's hard to set boundaries. And even when you're used to, I think it's always like, it's not the best feeling in the moment because we want to be liked and accepted. That's a human thing. That's the way that we live in community. We want to, air quote, belong. So it's hard when you have to choose yourself and say no or put a limit somewhere. The majority of us, we grew up in a society where saying no means you being mean, and nobody likes a mean person. I mean, do you? No. So, however, after deep self work, it's important to arrive at a point in life where you have to choose your own well being and your own integrity before anything else. Because what's the point of it all if you have zero integrity or respect for yourself? If you're not being honest and genuine towards your own self, how can you demonstrate these qualities to others and expect them out of others as well if you can't even embody them for yourself? So when setting boundaries, I like to remind to myself that I'm being committed to healthy relationships with myself and with others. It's really about not betraying you by allowing something that you know full well that will be harmful to you or simply leave you feeling some type of way that is detrimental to your mental and or emotional health. I don't know if you feel the same, but it always feels easier to do for others than to do for ourselves. It's easier to help rather than be helped. It's easier to answer than to ask. It's easier to give rather than receive. I mean, I guess it depends for some people, but you know what I mean? Like, it's the same with compassion, like demonstrating compassion for yourself, just like you keep on having compassion for others, is so important. Setting boundaries is having compassion for yourself, is being accountable for your energy and how you spend it. So I think it's super important to remind all of that to yourself before setting that boundary. If you like at a point where you hesitating and be like, oh, maybe it's fine. I can accept that. Maybe they don't mean it this way, or maybe in the long run, I will like adjust and things like that. So remind yourself of all of that and then start the process of setting that boundary. How do we do that? How do we do that? I think it's literally three steps. The first step being to tune in with yourself, your intuition, your yes or no compass, as Sarah Gilman, the author of Transform Your Boundaries, calls it, your yes or no compass, like inner compass. And most of the time, your body will constantly react to situations. So start by being aware of when things feel good and when things feel bad, and do more of the good things and less of the bad things. It's easy, we done. No, 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 not so much, because remember the conditioning and how we think that other people's reaction is our business when it's truly not, is gonna mess up with our mind when we trying to set up that boundary. If I respectfully and honestly, which puts me in the vulnerable place, by the way, tell you to stop saying or doing something that makes me uncomfortable or is damaging my well being or my safety for that matter, and you getting upset, angry, or disappointed when you supposedly care about me, then your reaction is on you, is not on me at all. So make sure to not only know yourself, but also your desires and your needs so you can live in alignment with those. If you don't decide what you want or what you need for yourself, other people will gladly do it for you, not necessarily in your best interest. So that's super important to tune in with in yourself. So the second step to setting up boundaries with yourself, with others, I mean, in that case, more with others, is that once it's clear to you, when you've done like the first step, you've got to let other people know. You got to inform them, communicate your boundaries, and express your needs. If they don't know, you cannot blame them when they'll treat you however they want. Like I said earlier, we've got to be honest, genuine, direct, and authentic without being mean or arrogant, of course. It will avoid so much trouble, misunderstandings, and hurt in the long run. So, for example, to me, living in peace is a non negotiable for me. Everything that goes against my peace has been a boundary of mine. If you come into my life to disrupt my peace with drama, gossip, or whatever other shenanigans that you want to you want to bring in, is not going to fly with me. And however, I can see that with my own growth and time passing, my boundaries around peace have evolved because the mere meaning of peace has also shifted for me. The way I see peace has also shifted with time. So what I considered peace back then is not the exact same way that I view peace today. So my main goal is the same. It's still peace, it's still living in peace, but before I would like automatically like remove myself from the situation and without giving any explanation or anything, I would just like, you started, like I'm just gone. Like So that was a little bit harsh, but I think it's the beginning. When you start learning something, like it takes a little bit of time to adjust. But now, for example, my piece is not taking phone calls after a certain time. Once this hour has passed, people know I informed them of my boundary that after this hour, I'm not going to pick up any calls. And if it's an emergency, then write me a text saying emergency, pick up, and then I will do it. But that will be the only exception. Whereas before, I would just not pick up and people will get mad at me afterwards because I would have not communicated my boundary and they would have taken it personally. And we both will feel like some type of way because I would feel like my boundary has not been respected and they're abusing my time. And they would not understand because they will be like, I'm calling her and she's not caring about me because she's not picking up. So communicate your boundaries, people. It's important. For the sake of your relationships, just communicate your boundaries. And it's more mature too, to not expect people to guess what you need and actually voicing your needs. Even if we're scared of hurting someone else's feelings, which is normal, and making them angry or whatnot, and that we have to voice that boundary with a shaky voice, we still have to let it out. We still have to let it out. We still have to show up for ourselves. We still have to take care of ourselves. We still need to stand up for ourselves. And the crazy thing that we don't even take into account beforehand is that most of the time people understand. They might even share their own boundaries. And you'll both find a compromise that is fair to both of you. And that situation of expressing your truth will forge a mutual respect, which is a great foundation to also make your relationship with that person evolve. May it be at work, with family, with friends, with romantic partners. Setting boundaries is truly, truly uncomfortable and somewhat stressful in the moment of setting the boundary itself. But thinking about the long term, once those boundaries are in place, it results in a life of peace and harmony, not only with others, but with yourself too. You will feel much more respected. You will feel like you have more agency in your own life. You will feel stronger and more anchored and rooted into yourself and feel like you can truly trust yourself too to take decisions, to know what's best for you and feel like you're living a life that is truer to you. So in my example of the person abusing your time and your skill for internet or admin work, let's say that you're done, like you don't want to give anymore to that person because it's too much. Instead of like going into anger and like slamming the door and breaking your relationship with that person, think about a boundary that you need to set in place. Let's say, like telling to the person, I'll give you a hand with your admin work 1 hour per week at a time that works for me, not after hours. Let's say on Saturdays between 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. So you subconsciously telling the other person that I'm not changing my generous character, but you have to be respectful of my time. Or otherwise saying, I'll keep having integrity, yet I respect myself enough, and that includes my time. So the other person might feel some type of way because they used to have more than 1 hour per week from you, but they might understand and feel like, oh, okay, that's great. Now I can actually pencil that time in my calendar. And every Saturday between 11 a.m. and 12 p.m., I know that you'll be there and help me out. And I can arrange like all of the things that we need to work on beforehand. So that would be great because you will feel like you're respected. It's easier for them and they get the help and you also getting the benefit of helping someone. Or they might be angry because now they have less of your time. It's okay. You just have to accept it, move on and do what you got to do. And that goes with the third step of setting boundaries. Sometimes expressing your boundaries will let people feel some type of way. People often think that if we set boundaries, we are being mean or selfish, or they will just take it personally. First of all, you can still be nice, kind, generous, and honest while setting strong boundaries for yourself and making your message come across to the other person clearly. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to be arrogant. You don't have to be on your high horse. You can make your message come across in a gentle and respectful way. Second of all, just like when you take a toy out of a child's hand, people might be angry, throwing adult tantrums, And when I say that here, gaslighting, guilt tripping, silent treatment, etc., or simply be disappointed in you, but people's reactions to you setting a boundary that protects your well being is not your responsibility. People will act how they want to act. As I always say, 99.9% of the time, it has nothing to do with you. Now, I'm not saying that you setting a boundary is not gonna trigger an old wound or revive some trauma in them, but that is not for you to deal with. And we've got to be okay with not being liked by everyone too. I saw a funny quote not that long ago that said something along the lines, you want everyone to like you when you're not even liking everybody. And it made me laugh because, I mean, snort a little bit. Because it's so true. Not everyone is our cup of tea, and we're not everyone's cup of tea. And that is so normal. It's so normal. We all so different. So of course, we cannot be everyone's cup of tea. And that's okay. That's okay. We gotta let that go. And I was like that before. I would be like, I don't understand why they have no reason to not like me, which is also like when I think about it, is a little bit cocky too. But sometimes you're not doing anything, you're just like living and breathing, and you will upset some people without any action on your part. And that's okay. That's okay too. Not everybody is gonna like you. You should actually feel great about that because it means that the people who will like you will truly like you for you and not some persona or people pleasing them or you overextending yourself for them. And also, no is a full sentence. It's a full sentence. I mean, I prefer saying no, thank you, though, but you get what I mean. There is no need to add a lie or a lame excuse after saying no. Like, stick to sharing your truth. Don't make assumptions of how your message will be received. And actually, okay, hate might be a strong word, but I strongly, strongly dislike when people are telling me no, and then they go on a tangent about why they cannot do the thing or come to the event or whatever. And you can tell it's a lie. You can tell, like, I'm like, in my, I'm like, what's the point of saying all of that? And you can just say, no, that's fine. I will be okay. I'll survive. So we also have to integrate that in our own self and just like sticking to the no, thank you. I appreciate it, but no, thank you. So when you've just learned to say no, you might subconsciously take a kick out of it and say no to way too many things, but that's okay because it's a learning curve, especially for someone who had a hard time saying no before. And with time, you'll find your own balance and learn to be more in tune with your inner compass of what's truly okay and what is not okay for you. And even though we're setting boundaries, people will always feel entitled and will want to break your boundaries. It's a fact. And that is not necessarily out of malice, but because it benefits them and it's in human nature to want more, at least in the society we've evolved in. So our boundaries will be violated. It's our job to learn from that situation, to move on and to keep on enforcing them over and over and over again, and for them to become our non-negotiable. Because crossing your boundaries means breaking the barrier of your safe space, of your well-being. You are the only one in charge of your well-being, mental, physical, and spiritual wellness. So you cannot cheat yourself and you cannot allow other people to cheat you when you clearly inform them. Because if you did not do the second step of informing them, then you cannot get mad at them. So, yeah, boundaries are so necessary to improve our day to day life, to live more authentically, take back our time, do more of what we love, share a fuller expression of ourselves, and to build healthier relationships. Setting boundaries is a life skill that should have been taught at school, honestly. It's a lesson that we often learn the hard way, but is so valuable, so valuable. I'm still learning and getting better at it every single day. And one thing that is for sure is that I won't stop. Remember that boundaries are an expression of self-love, of self-care and self-compassion, and also an expression of love, honesty, and vulnerability towards others. Telling them in a way, I care about you so much that I'm sharing a vulnerable part of me with you so we can connect in a healthy way and build a bond rooted in integrity. Inviting them to do the same with you. If they care about you and have also done the self work, they will actually be grateful you shared that with them. You cannot make everyone happy or manage people's feelings to always keep the peace at the cost of your own well being. But you can make yourself happy and you can be aligned with yourself. You can live a life that builds trust and harmony with yourself by kindly, gracefully, and respectfully putting in place healthy boundaries for yourself and letting go of the rest that is not serving your highest good. Show to yourself that you matter and that you have your own back. So that's all for me today. I hope that this conversation with myself helps you to set boundaries for yourself, or that is just a confirmation that it's good for you to keep on setting boundaries for yourself. Little announcement starting on September 4th. So in a few days, I will be extending Conscious Matters platform to YouTube. It will be a little bit different than the monthly podcast I do here. So the channel will be about conscious living through empowerment and holistic wellness, especially mental health. It will be talks, it will be chit chats, maybe interviews and vlogs in the future. I don't know. I'm starting out. I'll be exploring, experimenting, and hopefully you will be part of the journey too and enjoy this new format as well on top of this podcast that will stay here every single month. But you will have also the opportunity to see my face and hear my voice every single week on YouTube. So you can check the channel right now. It's Conscious Matters in 2 words, and you can subscribe so you will know when I'm dropping the very first video. So you can be part of the journey over there too. And let me know what you think. Let me know if you have other ideas and you want me to go over certain topics or things like that. Feel free to write in the comments of the videos or go as usual on Instagram in the DMs, and I'll gladly exchange with you over there. Until next month, take care and talk to you soon. You know who made it. Thank you to have taken the time to listen to me talking about conscious living. Conscious Matters is a self-produced podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share, leave a review, and or donate. Your support will help to keep on raising the collective consciousness together. Take care and talk to you soon.